Give a warm welcome to our RPT chairman, Lieutenant Colonel.
It's a pleasure and honor to be here with everyone. I just came from an event with one of our state house candidates down, Gershon Hernandez, who's seeking to win back one of the races that we lost, and also Will Douglas, who is running over in Mesquite and Garland. He would be my representative. So we got a great opportunity to win back some races up here in the Texas State House, and that's what I want to talk to you about. You're sitting at ground zero. Can we?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm being interrogated here. Where's the water board next? Can you put...
There you go.
That's what you call paratrooper logic. But you all are sitting at ground zero. What happens up here in North Texas will determine which way Texas goes. And which way Texas goes, so goes America. And which way America goes, so goes the world. The Progressive Socialist left is targeting Dallas County, Collin County, Denton County, and Tarrant County. In the Texas State House, they only need 9 seats to win back to take over our Texas State House. And that's so important because redistricting is coming up. And we're going to be getting 2 new congressional districts here in the great state of Texas. We don't want the left to be able to determine what those congressional districts will look like. But even if we're successful in holding on to Texas State Senate, if they get the Texas State House and they cannot agree upon a redistricting plan, then where does the redistricting plan go? Who decides? The courts. And if you recall 2 years ago, how many judicial positions did we lose in the state of Texas? Some 56, between Dallas County and Harris County. We've got 4 Texas State Supreme Court justices that are up in this election cycle. We have 3 courts of appeals judges that are up in this election cycle. That's why what you all are doing is so important. Because we don't have the straight party ticket voting anymore. And you have got to get out there and get people to understand that it is important for you to stay in that ballot booth. I know there's a lot of energy out there for President Trump. You had 7,000 cars and trucks supporting President Trump in Laredo, Texas. But if those 7,000 walk in, hit President Trump, Mike Pence, and then walk out, every single empty box is a vote for a Democrat. So I need that energy, I need that enthusiasm to go all the way down the line. And even for some of you in this election cycle, you're going to have city council, you're going to have some school board races that are on your ballot. Because a lot of those races got pushed back to later because of the COVID-19 issue. So this is critical for our grassroots people to go out here and really inform, educate, and activate everyone on what's happening. The great thing is that in Collin and also Denton County, we already have producing the ballot slates. One of the things that I have seen so often for the Democrats is that when people are walking up to the polling location, there's someone ready to tell you exactly who to vote for. And we have been lacking in doing that. And so we're going to steal their best practice, and we're going to make sure that every single person, every single constitutional conservative, all across the great state of Texas, all across 254 counties, know exactly, from President Trump all the way down to that lowest position, who they need to be hitting on that box. And then you just got to have the courage and the will to go in there and do it. They're dumping lots of money here. What you saw with Robert Francis O'Rourke will pale in comparison to what is happening right now. Last night I was Beth Van Dyne. How many people here in Texas Congressional District 24? Beth Van Dyne is up against $5.4 million that just got dropped last week for ad buys against her. They're going to try to pummel her to death. And the person that she is running against is an avowed, pretty much so, socialist. Hasn't been out, not doing anything, does not believe in supporting our police, does not believe in law and order. But what they believe in is that they can just pound us to death on television with a horrible message, and that's how it's going to be won. That's why you need to be out there telling the truth and defining our candidates. I tell people wherever I go, this election comes down to two very easy choices. It's the rule of law and law and order, or it's the rule of the mob and chaos and violence. And when I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, I will tell you there is no difference from what I saw happening on the streets over there than what's happening right here. A federal law enforcement agent was shot in a drive-by shooting in Portland today. You know what happened in Los Angeles with the 2 county sheriffs. And if you saw the pictures in the video, that 31-year-old mother of 2 with her jaw shot off, and the other young rookie cop, 24 years of age, with a bullet in his head. And yet you have these progressive socialists outside of the emergency room, outside of the hospital, screaming and shouting that they wanted them to die. Imagine what it must be like for the kids of that mother to be in the hospital and hear things such as that. This is a clear-cut choice. And when you look at what they are trying to do in Texas, how many people here have recently been down to Austin, Texas? Do you know that, what do they call Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world? Report last week, 90% of live music establishments in Austin, Texas are gone. Ordered up, never coming back. You go down on 6th Street in Austin, all you see are boarded up buildings. No one goes in downtown Austin at night. You get off of I-35 in the capital city of Texas, and it looks and smells like San Francisco. Because you have avowed socialists that sit on the city council of our capital city that have turned it into such. Crime in Austin is up 60%. The Fraternal Order of Police put up a billboard sign, "Welcome to Austin, enter at your own risk." That's your capital city of the state of Texas. In Houston, they want to get rid of all of the constable forces in Harris County. In Dallas County, they're talking about defunding the police in Dallas. This is what is happening in Texas. It's time for us to stand up. Amen. It's time for us to show them that there are more of us than there are of them. Yeah. And let me tell you something so important. No more circular firing squad, folks. The only people that don't get shot in a circular firing squad is if you're opposite someone that can't shoot. We don't need to be shooting at each other. We need to be aiming at who we know the enemy is. Amen. They want Texas for one reason, not to improve our quality of life, not to make sure we continue to have the 10th best economy in the world, not to make sure that we have energy independence and a net export of energy resources, the largest exporter of liquefied natural gas in the world. It comes out of Port Arthur, Texas. But yet we have a top of the ticket in Biden and Harris that have said they're all for the Green New Deal. That means the oil and gas industry of Texas is gone in 10 to 12 years. Now what happens to the economy of Texas? What happens to the future of Texas? What happens to the national security of the United States of America? You know the reason why President Trump was able to sit down and sign an agreement with Bahrain, UAE, and Israel? Because we're not dependent upon energy resources from that part of the world. We don't have to be weak. We are in a position of strength. But yet they want to take us backwards. They want to abolish ICE. Ladies, Texas is the #1 state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. Maybe you saw the chairman's memo that I put out this week. They don't want ICE out there on the street, so that means they want more of this trafficking. They don't want us to curtail MS-13. They want us to defund the police. And then they want to take away your Second Amendment rights. Kamala Harris, and let me tell you something. If Joe Biden wins, y'all, come on, be serious. 60 days. I'm giving Joe 60 days. You want to take a bet with me? 60 days, huh? And then they're going to come and say, you know, Joe has been in service to this country for all these years. And, you know, he's had such a tragic life. And, you know, it's time for old Joe to go off and have a good life. And here comes Kamala Harris as your new president, who has already said that she will use executive orders to take away your Second Amendment rights. And remember that Robert Francis O'Rourke stood with Joe Biden in Dallas in March, and Joe Biden turned to him and said, "This is the man that I'm going to put in charge of my gun problem." This is all that's happening in the Lone Star State. And I always tell people, the Lone Star illuminates the other 49. If the brilliance and the brightness of the Lone Star goes dim, the United States of America goes into a new dark age. Now, I'm pledging to you that I'm going to fight. One of the things that I told you in campaigning is that we would be on offense. We would not be on defense. We would not allow the left to dominate and dictate the narrative to us. We're going to continually be relentless against them. And that's what I hope you see me doing. Because we cannot allow, think about the Texas State Board of Education this past weekend and the vote that they took. This sex education curriculum that they want to teach our children that is pornographic in nature. 3rd through 8th graders, they want to teach them about sodomy. Instead of teaching about reading, writing, and arithmetic in the state of Texas. The vote was 9-6, people. 6 members of the Texas State Board of Education wanted to teach your children sex education and deviancy and perversion. How many of y'all know about SB 145 in California? SB 145 in California that Gavin Newsom just signed into law that basically said that as long as there's a 10-year separation, you can have sex with a 14-year-old or above. So if you're 23 in California, you can have sex with a 14-year-old, you will not be considered a sex offender. And that's the type of stuff we want to have in the state of Texas. It's time for us to make a stand. It's time to make a stand for our children. It's time to make a stand for ourselves, our small business, our oil and gas industry. It's time for us to send a message. California used to be a red state. Nevada used to be a red state. Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia. Now they got their sights on Texas. If they take Texas, they take America. But I believe that since you are here tonight, you're not going to allow that to happen on your watch. And that's all I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to leave it on the battlefield. I'm asking you to understand that this is an ideological battlefield. This is a fight that we have to win. And even when we are successful in this election cycle on November the 3rd, that doesn't mean that the battle is over. We won this round, but they're relentless and they're going to be back. And we have to continue to be relentless. We have to continue to beat them. We have to kick them out of city councils. We have to kick them off of school boards. Because that's what our children and our future is so important to. I think this is our time. When I travel around and I see what's happening, there's an energy on our side. But I don't want you to fade out. I don't want you to burn out. You know, like a marathon race, okay? It ain't about who's ahead at mile 6. It's about who's peaking at mile 24. We're about at mile 24. Registration, voter registration, I believe October the 5th. It's the last time voter registration. Early voting starts October the 13th. But let me tell you something that we have done. I have signed on to a lawsuit that will be brought, a mandamus, that will be brought against the Secretary of State because we don't need to have that extra week of early voting that was granted to the other side. Because that's when the foolishness happens. So early voting right now is supposed to start on October the 13th, but let's see if we can get a stay of execution on that. Mail-in balloting, we have been joined with other groups to make sure that in Harris County and Dallas County, we don't have these mail-in ballots going out. And you need to understand there's a difference between mail-in ballots and absentee balloting. Absentee balloting is a control thing. You have to request that ballot to be sent back to you. What they want to do in Harris County, the largest county in the state of Texas, is just throw 2.4 to 2.7 million ballots out there. But right now what we're seeking to do is we're seeking to get an order so that the constables can go in and collect the ballots that they have already printed down in Harris County that they were intending to mail out so we can make sure there's no foolishness in the state. We need you out there as poll workers. We need you, you know, there's a thing in the military we say scouts out. Scouts are out there to do one thing, to report back to the main body, to gain intelligence, to gain information. We need you all to be out there on the ground to do those things. We're going to put together a great team of lawyers so that if we get the information, we can quickly react and we can shut these guys down, because that's the only way they're going to try to win this thing, by some type of nefarious action. The county clerk down in Harris County sent a letter to the governor asking him to extend the November 3rd date for 96 hours. And the county clerk in Harris County also just happens to be the treasurer of the Texas Democrat Party. It's clear as day what they want to do. But we cannot allow them to have it. So I'm out here with you. I want us to fight. I want us to win. I want us to have a great celebration on November the 4th, November the 5th. And truthfully, you want to know my assessment? I think the president wins by double digits. Now, why do I think the president wins by double digits? Because the most important poll out there is gun sales. They're off the roof. And guess who is out there buying those guns and taking concealed carry license classes?
Suburban women.
Suburban white women. They ain't taking that Antifa, Black Lives Matter crap. And that's why I believe this thing is about law and order, the rule of law, and the rule of the mob. They have gone too far, and people are coming to our side. When you get 7,000 people in trucks and cars in Laredo, all through the Rio Grande Valley, that is telling you something, and that's why they're nervous. But it's the fourth quarter. We're down 2 touchdowns, but we got the ball. That's how I want you to play this. I don't want you to be like my Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl, you know what I'm talking about? Scores 28-3 halfway through the third quarter. All my relatives back in Atlanta hooping and hollering, calling me, and you know what I told them? It ain't over. And what happened in overtime? So we're going to keep our foot on the gas pedal. All right?
Yeah.
You guys got questions for me? Fire away. Yes, sir.
I've done some research on our representation, and it seems like we've gone to a system of apportionment. George Washington had a bill across his desk to veto apportionment. Adam signs it a lot. What happens every year, we have more and more people who one represents our vote declines. And right now, based on the Constitution, our value of our vote declined by 75%. So, do you have any answer for that, or have you maybe knowing about that?
Well, I will tell you that one of the things that I am concerned about, and I don't know if it fits into the argument of apportionment, but what I do see is the major urban population centers almost negating rural communities. And that is the strategy of the left, is to come into the major urban population centers where you see the greatest amount of failure. And that's why North Texas is so important to them. They have flooded North Texas. All these businesses and corporations have come here. So when you talk about an apportionment of the population in these major urban population centers, because this is where 2 new congressional districts are probably going to come. And that's why we don't want them to be in charge of that redistricting and that drawing of the lines. So that is a big concern. One more question? Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to have any kind of hotline for people that have election issues?
Absolutely. We're going to have that all set up. And like I said, we're going to have the HIT team with a team of lawyers, and they're going to be in these strategic counties like Dallas County, like Houston, Harrison. Oh, I just remembered. Hey, voting machines, that's another thing to be watching out for. Down in Dallas County, last time they had these machines from ESS, so I want you to pay attention to what type of voting machines that they have out there, and we've got to have some type of paper trail backup ballot. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just a reiteration from you on the report to vote all the way down the ballot.
Oh, absolutely. Again, you know, any open box is a vote for a Democrat. And let me just explain it to you. How many soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guards, and former law enforcement we got in here? Thank you for your service. Okay, let me close with this. And y'all just sit and wait, okay?
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me tell you this. If these young men and women can be out there pulling 18, 24-hour shifts and patrols, not getting any sleep or rest, standing on freedom's ramparts, the least you can do for them is stay in that voter line in that ballot booth for an hour. That's the least you can do, an hour. Because they are sacrificing so that you have that right to be able to cast that vote. So you think about it. That young man, that young woman hadn't had a shower, hadn't had a hot meal, standing watch, on patrol, getting shot at. The least you can do is stay in that line for an hour to protect Texas. North Texas is the key to Texas. Texas is the key to America. America is the key to the world. God bless you all and thank you. Marine song?
I almost played the Coast Guard song, but